Someone you loved is gone, and the silence they left behind is somehow louder than anything they ever said. So what do you do with that? And how do you even begin to figure out what they would want you to do next? Here's the thing nobody tells you at the funeral. Grief is not the only thing they left you. They also left you a blueprint in their values, their habits, their offhand comments, and yes, sometimes their last words. We tend to romanticize last words like they're always some cinematic whisper of profound wisdom. But honestly, sometimes the most telling thing wasn't what they said at the end, it was what they repeated their whole life. My person always said some version of don't waste time being miserable when you could just fix the thing. And I heard it so many times I stopped listening until now. Behavioral psychologists will tell you that grief scrambles decision-making, and neuroscientists will tell you that loss literally rewires the prefrontal cortex temporarily, making clarity feel impossible. Think of it like trying to read a map in a blackout. The map is still accurate, you just can't see it yet. There's a cruel irony in the early days. Everyone around you is saying they'd want you to be happy, while you're sitting there unable to remember what happy even felt like before this. The optimism of that phrase crashes hard against the reality of Tuesday morning when you have to figure out what to actually times do. Psychologists call it continuing bonds theory. The idea that maintaining a relationship with the deceased through values and actions is not unhealthy. It is in fact one of the most adaptive forms of grief. But there's a gap between the theory sounding beautiful and knowing what to put on your to-do list Monday morning. So here's how I actually did it. I wrote down every value I ever heard them express, every cause they cared about, every frustration they had with the world, and every dream they mentioned, and then immediately dismissed. That list became a kind of living document, less a eulogy, more an instruction manual left behind by someone who never knew they were writing one. The concrete next steps looked almost embarrassingly small at first. Calling the person they always said I should call, finishing the project they believed in more than I did, and showing up to the thing I kept skipping because I thought there'd be more time. Turns out honoring someone doesn't always look like a monument. Sometimes it looks like an email you've been avoiding for 8 months. People will tell you they'd want you to move on. And I want to be careful here because that phrase can become a way to rush grief rather than honor it. Moving times, forward times, and moving times on times are two wildly different directions, and only one of them keeps them with you. Here's a misconception worth demolishing right now. Honoring someone does not mean freezing your life in amber around the moment they left. The people who lived most fully, the ones we miss most fiercely, were almost always the ones who kept times moving, kept times building, kept times trying, and that's the behavior worth replicating. History is full of people who transform their grief into legacy, from artists to scientists to activists, who point directly to a lost person as the reason they didn't quit. The pattern is almost predictable. Loss creates a pressure that, if you don't let it crush you, will reshape you into something they would have been proud of. The practical lesson here is that you don't have to figure out the whole meaning of their life in the first week. You just have to take one action that they would recognize as times you trying in their direction. Position size matters in investing, and it matters in grief too. Start small, stay consistent, don't overextend on emotion when you should be building on process. Discipline and consistency will carry you further than any single grand gesture made in the fog of fresh loss. What you do quietly, repeatedly, and with intention will ultimately be the thing that actually honors them, not the speech, not the donation made once, but the daily habit of living toward what they valued. At the end of it, the most honest thing I can tell you is this: I don't know if I'm getting it right, and I've made peace with that uncertainty, because I think trying times, thoughtfully times, is itself the answer they would have given me. Comfort isn't certainty, it's knowing you're facing the right direction, even when the road is unclear. If this resonated with you, subscribe and check out all our other topics.